Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to see you today. My name is Dustin Cormier. Welcome to another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today, we are going to be continuing our series discussing the moon in the sign of Sagittarius. And this is, of course, my own natal placement of the moon. So I know it pretty well, at least by my own regard. I'm a Tropical Vedic astrologer. I abide by Western measurements, but I tend to convey the essence of what I've been really steeped in lately, which is Vedic consciousness and philosophy. So I really lean into my Vedic astrology knowledge when I do these videos. What I recommend is for you to listen to it, check it out, and see for yourself if anything lands. Different cultures of astrology all lead to the same essence of truth. We all just kind of have different ways of conveying it, and sometimes they don't necessarily obstruct each other, as I've known. I find that with these videos, I'm giving just new information that Westerners might be well served to at least look into. Today in particular, we're talking about Sagittarius Moon with Libra Venus. Venus in the moon's 11th house. Now, there is something thankful to be said about this combination. You'll notice in all these videos I've given this idea that Vedic astrology abides by different aspects than the West does. We often talk about in Vedic astrology, what's really most important is, regarding trines and squares, Vedic grahas, the Vedic planets, can have aspects to each other, and the trines and the squares and the oppositions are less, they don't say whether it's good or bad. What makes it good or bad is the relationship between the planets. In this case, with the moon and Venus, Venus is neutral to the moon. So Venus doesn't affect the moon. Venus doesn't hurt the moon. But when the moon is in an aspect to Venus, the nature of the moon is an egotism which causes the moon to obstruct. There's a joy that we get out of using our moon, and if it's in trine or if it's opposite or if it's conjunct Venus, the joy we get in doing our own thing obstructs what Venus is supposed to do, which is sharing our joy with other people and sharing our value with other people. Here in this case, we see that, how this works. This is the actual degrees of a circle, the degrees of an angle. The 90 degrees is the 4th house angle, 180 degrees is the 7th house angle, 270 degrees is the 9th house angle. So once we get to the 10th, and I believe that's correct. In any case, the 11th house and angle is basically 0. And this means that the moon is not starving Venus here, thankfully. So this bodes well for this combination, especially because, as we're going to talk about, the moon in Sagittarius kind of lacks the water chakra because there's a few reasons why. I highly recommend you check out my video talking about Sagittarius Moon. I put a lot of energy into it. It's about an hour long, and it really gives you the details about where Sagittarius Moon is coming from. In particular, the fact that Sagittarius Moon, by its nature, is not that conducive, at least by sign. There's a lot to be conveyed with the moon. There's more. We're just talking about the signs of these planets. There's so much more to astrology than that, but it's still important. The moon in Sagittarius is typically not the best placement, because in this case, the moon is one sign away from Scorpio, and that makes the moon almost pretty much debilitated. Remember, debilitation works by proximity. So you're not out of the woods just because the moon is in Sagittarius. It's not in its debilitation sign. It's still kind of debilitated. Thankfully, by sign, being in the sign of Sagittarius is not, that's a neutral. We really take importance to the relationship of a planet with the lord of the sign that it's in. In this case, the moon, Jupiter's neutral to the moon, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius, of course. So the moon, by being in Sagittarius, Jupiter's not a friend and it's not an enemy. It's neutral to the moon. So the thing is that While that's true, what you have to consider is that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is still a masculine planet. So the moon in this person, what we say that the difficulty of Scorpio moon is that it says, I don't need anything. I don't need anyone to invigorate myself, to give myself vitality. I don't want to depend on external things outside of myself. I want to attach myself to my own emotional rhythm in order to invigorate myself. And how the moon in Sagittarius in particular does it, it's better than Scorpio, essentially, but it's still not what the moon is supposed to do. The masculine planets like the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter, they're kind of all about like what you do from 9 to 5. It's like what you do. It is the life path that you are following as your essence of what you're trying to actually do in your life. It's the sun is the king of the chart. The moon is more like what you are and who you merge with in order to connect yourself with the support of the life and love of the universe all around you in order to sustain your journey on the path to doing what the sun and what Jupiter and Mars are ultimately trying to do. Now here we have the moon, which is supposed to be, the queen kind of is supposed to take care of the king by taking care of itself and being its own element in in the person's life. So the moon is supposed to get the Svadhisthana chakra, that's the water chakra. It's supposed to sustain itself. And when the moon is in Sagittarius, here we have Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, a masculine planet. Now the thing is, Jupiter rules 2 signs, Sagittarius and Pisces. The moon in Pisces is a lot better, a lot easier. It's in a receptive sign, which means it can listen outside and it can actually connect to people outside of itself in a little easier way. And as well, it's closer to Taurus. It's closer to the moon's exaltation point. Here in Sagittarius, Jupiter's a masculine planet, and it's in the masculine sign of a masculine planet. And what happens is that the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, which is supposed to be, the water of the water chakra is supposed to douse the heat of the Manipura chakra so that the Manipura chakra, the fire chakra, can be sustained and it doesn't burn itself out and dry itself out on its way up the mountain. So you're climbing up a mountain in your life. You got all the things you want to do with your life. Ultimately, when we get to be about 50 years old, this is when we've all begun to fully master. We've gone through life. We've, many of us have had children, or if not, then you've just nurtured your creative children, whatever that means for you, to the point that you're 50 years old, and then you get to the peak of what you're actually doing in your life. And if you do not have water on the way up that mountain, then you are not going to have the resources, the love, the grounding, the vitality of the love and the support of the universe of friends and loved ones all around you. And you are not going to be able to convey the highest heights of what you could do when you get to that age, or just when you're expressing the life path of the sun throughout your whole life. So, the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, is supposed to douse the fire chakra so that we don't waste all of our energy. The metaphor is Icarus. Icarus wants to go as close to the sun as possible for as long as possible. But if he wants to do that, he has to find a way to do it, but then come back and have the rest, have the yin to the yang. Because if you just go right to the center of the sun, your wings are going to burn up and you're going to hurt yourself and you're not going to have the vitality that you need to get closer to the sun for longer. The people who get closest to the sun without burning up are the people who have a balance of the lunar dimension with the fiery solar dimension. Now here for you, being Sagittarius moon, a part of your Svadhisthana chakra, being the moon, is being channeled through the fire chakra. And that's not what the water chakra is supposed to do in its own right. This is a person, Sagittarius moon is somebody who's very ambitious and who likes to take part of their recreational, relaxing energy and put it into hobbies, recreational activities, and even your career, networking in your career, building to get farther in your career. And so these people can be very ambitious individuals. And some of the people who have the greatest expansiveness in terms of their career and what they're doing is people who have a well-placed moon in a sign like Sagittarius. So, this bodes well for your career. It's just what ends up happening for this person is that they aren't used to thinking about what love actually is and means. What they're really more inclined to do is that they get lonely because they put so much effort in their career. So what they do is they try to make their career happen quick and try to get it going fast. And then they say to potential lovers, they kind of wield this big Jupiter stick and say, hey, look what I've been building on. Look at this wealth that I've amassed. Look at this path that I'm on that's getting me social prestige and these sorts of things. And this is a person who, if left to their own devices, at least by the moon's regard, might not actually enjoy the human sentimental experience along the way to what they're trying to complete and accomplish in their life. Now, in comes Venus. Thankfully, for anyone with a moon position like me, who has this moon here, and I should say, just because you have the moon in Sagittarius doesn't mean you are like a narcissist who doesn't know how to have a good time and hang out and actually connect with people at a soulful, sentimental, meaningful level. There's many things that convey the strength of the moon. If it's closer to full moon, it's almost like being exalted. If it's waxing, it's stronger. If it has what's called Shadbala, which is overall strength in Vedic astrology, then it has strength. If it has aspects from its friends, the Sun and Mercury, or if it's got a trine from the great benefic Jupiter, these are all things that can help the moon understand the importance of living your life while you're living for the future. Because Sagittarius moon lives for the future in a very strong way. It's because that Svadhisthana chakra, a piece of the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, the second chakra, being funneled into the Manipura, the third chakra. Now, thankfully, for your case, you being Sagittarius moon with Venus in Libra, here's how this is how this Vedic system works with the chakras. Is the first chakra is the Mercury chakra. Mercury rules the Earth chakra, at least again according to this particular Vedic cosmology of the chakras. There are many ways of conveying the planets in through the chakras. Some say that Aries is up here, and then Taurus is here, and then Gemini is here, and then Cancer is the heart chakra. Some people say that Capricorn and Aquarius are the first chakra, and then Sagittarius and Pisces are the second chakra, and then Aries and Scorpio are the third chakra, and then Taurus and Libra are the fourth chakra, the heart chakra. There's many different ways of conveying this, but this is an important one that I get from Ernst Wilhelm. And in my opinion, they're all entangled, happening kind of at the same time, in the same way. In this case, what we have is the first chakra, the Earth chakra, is ruled by Mercury. It's the management of the physical things we need to, have a combination of procreative fun and leaning towards the sun, trying to do what we want to do in a hard endurance way. Mercury manages the balance between that at the Earth level. The second chakra is ruled by the two water planets, which is the moon and Venus. Now, since your moon is in Sagittarius, we can see that it's part of your water chakra is being funneled through the Manipura chakra, which means that you don't probably douse your water chakra, as much as other people do, at least by the moon in its sign. So, what I've been saying throughout this series is that Venus is very important for a Sagittarius moon because Venus is an important arbiter of the other dimension of the water chakra. Essentially, if you've got a well-placed Venus, it's going to instinctively make the space for drinking the water that feels good just because the soul knows what feels good and what is going to sustain you. It's like really when anybody drinks a glass of water, they don't necessarily think, oh, I need to drink this water because I'm going to die if I don't drink it. Really, it's more like a dog drinking water. Why do they do it? Do they think about drinking the water? No, they just drink the water, and it's an instinctive thing that they know by experience feels good. This is the importance in yoga that we say that self-knowledge based on experience is more special and enduring than knowledge just picked up on but not experienced. So when we do something good for ourselves that sustains us, it's like drinking water. We just do it because. And Venus and Libra, they have to play at a level with this because Venus in Libra is in its own sign. It's in what's called the Mula Tricona. Libra is like the ruling space of Venus, in some ways even more so than Taurus. And really, the thing about Libra that's funny is that it is a very important aspect of Venus, but it is still one sign away from Virgo, where it's debilitated. Now, ultimately, what I want to say here, first and foremost, is that this is a good combination because Venus, by being in its own sign, it's not aspecting the moon. As I've said, the moon is not aspecting Venus, rather, which means that this is one combination where the moon's needs are not overtaking Venus. So this is somebody who considers it important to have sentimental experiences on their way up whatever mountain they're trying to live on. And it's through Venus. The magic of Venus allows this person to have a well-founded erotic psyche. So that when they go and do the Jupiter moon thing of going and expanding their network, people are meeting with someone who is kind of grounded from the top up. So a lot of Sagittarius moon people with an ill-placed Venus, or let's say the moon is aspecting Venus or whatever, where they're kind of really pushing to connect with me because I've got this experience and this expansion that I want to have. And the person says, wow, you really are you're more expansion than man. Or, you've got the living expanse, the space of growth overtakes the root of the plant. With Venus and Libra here, anyone that you talk with in the networking world that you're trying to expand through can smell that you've got a lover at home. When you're sitting around with a bunch of guys or a bunch of girls or whatever, and someone comes along and they have no water chakra and they're all about the business and they talk so excitedly about I'm really trying to get this business going on because it's the only respite I have in my life is thinking about the future and hoping that everyone else lives for the future with me and congratulates me for it. Someone with this combination, Venus and Libra, probably has a desire to actually ground themselves in a lived sentimental experience that is going to connect the water in them, the compassion. The water is compassion. Basically we actually have the instinct to share our time and our lives with people close to us because, like Ernst Wilhelm kind of talked with me about it, about how Venus has all these resources that it has and it wants to trade them. That's what Libra especially is about. It wants to, it has loads of apples, so many apples that it could just, it's almost like your apples are going to go to waste if you don't trade them. But you've only got 10 jars of peanut butter. So you go out to the market, you trade somebody a chunk of your apples, even 1/3 of your apples, which is nothing to you because you've got an overabundance of them. You trade it for some jars of peanut butter from a peanut farmer for whom their peanuts are the same thing. They've got too many of them. They don't know what to do with it all. But they don't have apples. And it's this one of me plus the one of you equals 3. This is the magic of the water Svadhisthana chakra. And this is something that gives this person abundance, luxury, and wealth that they understand will ground themselves to other people around them so that they have support when they have emotional moments and when they need it. Because Lord knows Sagittarius Moon, as I often say, I have Sag Moon. I often say that our shadow is just as long as the rays of our optimistic light. When we have our depressing moments, they can be just as jaded. And it ruins our career in those moments until we can just spit it out and then finally do something to let it go. And then we can come back up to that energy that gets us farther in our career. So it's important for Sag Moon to have a good Venus to connect with people through. Now, Libra Venus is something, again, which is very close to Virgo. It's still almost debilitated, but it's in its own sign. It's a complicated position in a certain way. But how I would say it is that when Venus is close to Virgo, it's kind of looking on the outside for what it thinks it wants. When Venus is closer to Pisces, it's looking inside the soul of a person, of the soul of everything. And what's on the surface, it just kind of sees, but accepts whatever's on the surface of a person as a part of the soul that they are. Libra Venus is a little bit idealistic, and they look for the outside. And at least this is different from Virgo. Venus in Virgo expects to get to the soul from the outside, but they're so perfectionist and so sensitive that they don't actually just go out and do it. Libra Venus can suffer because they go through experiences with people what they think match their soul. But what ends up happening is that over time, they get a sense of what they're really actually looking for. Usually about the time Saturn return happens, around the time you're 30. Specifically, it's the age of 32 where the Jupiter Nisargika Dasha happens. And that's when you kind of have the family and the person and the people that you want. And it's usually around that age that you've probably centered, as long as your Venus isn't too ill, which even though it's in its own sign, remember this is just by sign. There can, if Venus is conjunct Saturn, or if there's a gross Lajatadya Vashta, if Saturn and Mars are conjunct in Taurus, this is going to mess with the ability for the Venus person to have the grounded erotic psyche that could attract the partners that it needs to move through in order to find the partner that it really wants. I digress. There's many things that convey health of a planet outside of the sign positions that we're talking about. But for you, having Venus in Libra, while you might be hopeful and optimistic to have every moment invigorated by the feeling that your partner loves you, that someone is lockstep with you always, this is actually something that's at some level difficult for the Venus to ultimately get. This is kind of a magical position. There's the two gurus that are happening here. Jupiter through the moon is the guru of the Devas. Venus through Libra is the guru of the Asuras. So there's a magic that can happen with Sag Moon with Libra Venus, where the Sagittarius Moon is actually not exactly lockstep with anybody. They really beat to their own drum. So you might find yourself to be a janky person who likes to have the freedom to be independent, to go and do your own thing. But the Libra Venus in you wants to have a partner who you'll communicate with your partner that you're this freewheeling type of person, and your partner is probably someone who's a bit like that as well. Basically, you'll attract a partner because you're attracting what you put out. That's, we all attract our moon and our Venus, and we're going to find someone who jives with that instinctively in a grounded way. So, Sun and Mars attracts sexual partners who jive to the sexuality conveyed there, but Venus and the moon is less about what you do and it's more about what you are, what you attract as your person who you want to hang out and watch Netflix with and eat Cheetos with and vibe with. That's what the moon and Venus kind of attract. So you're probably going to attract a partner who appreciates your freewheeling, outgoing social style where you talk to lots of people, you enjoy being an outgoing person, and don't necessarily need to have your partner at your beck and call at all times, but you will communicate through Venus and Libra. You'll communicate the things and moments where you do want to be connected with the partner, and especially because of the Venus being in the moon's 11th house. The moon's in Sagittarius. Libra is the 11th house from Sagittarius. Even if the moon wasn't here, Venus in Libra always gives this personality of someone who is being socially regarded in regards to the joyous philosophy that they apply. Sagittarius, Libra being the 11th from Sagittarius. Now, the moon being in Sagittarius means that you dig into enjoyment of ambitions and philosophies and expanding yourself. Venus in Libra is probably making you enjoy connecting even more of this ambitious career consciousness, where basically you'll probably have friends, socialites of a groovy at its best, when this works best and when there's no problems with the two, you'll have a groovy scene full of people that are probably invested at some level in the same type of career that you are, depending. Or the people around you all help to expand you and your psyche so that you can do more things in your career, and you can talk with people. You probably enjoy talking with the people around you about the things that you all want to do together, and you're somebody who instigates, let's do some things together. Let's all go on vacation together. Let's all go and hang out at the park together and start doing some kind of craft that we all mutually enjoy doing. And you'll probably have a partner who appreciates you for this and who also is like you in this sense. And the two of you together probably enjoy conscripting a whole bunch of people to hang out, where really you want to have romance at some level, a sentimental feeling of friendship and romance through Venus and Libra with all the people around you kind of at all times. And it might give off a flirtatious energy at some levels. Ultimately, this is not how I think Western people will put this, as a very kind of flirtatious energy. But even still, Libra Venus is thinking about how flirtatious it is to the perception of their partner. And if the partner feels like you're going too open with other people, they're going to tell you, and you're going to consider it important to listen to them. Because this is the nature of the water chakra. Essentially, any good Venus, what happens with them is that you are receptive to what your partner wants because you remember your partner being receptive to what you want. If your partner's doing something to bother you, if they're just like clicking their tongue or like, picking at their nails or something, if you look at them and say, darling, could you please I'm just letting you know that I wouldn't prefer that you do that because the sound just like kind of bothers me. If they could be frustrated or whatever, but if they'll ultimately probably say, okay, all right, if you don't want me to do it, just remind me when I do it and I'll try not to do it for you. And you say good. And then they stop doing it, which means the next time they tell you that they would like you to stop doing, you'll probably think in your head, yes, of course I will, because you did it for me last time. And I know how good it feels for my will not to be obstructed. That's a Sagittarius Moon phrase there, by the way. A huge part of the deep psyche of Sagittarius Moon is that they just don't want their will to be obstructed at all. And they think cleverly about how they can connect with someone in order to enjoy them, but ultimately have, to get loneliness, get that bugbear off their back so that they can continue to focus on the things they want to do. And having a functional relationship that gives them that sentimental experience, but also furthers their energy in their career, is something that makes them capable of understanding the importance of listening to their partner. Really, with Venus and Libra, it's more sentimental than that. I've been talking about many of the Sag Moon with Venus sign combinations as being almost narcissistic in this way. But this is somebody where the moon is not starving Venus. Venus is in its own sign, so you are blessed with a desire to understand, having an internal desire for genuine experiences where people want to share themselves with you just for the sheer joy of what you are and of what they are. Making a deal, and making the deal of emotions where 1 + 1 = 3 for both parties, like I talked about with the apples and the peanut butter. There's a genuine desire to experience that richness and to experience that with Venus and Libra. You just always got to make sure to remember that the Sag Moon is so ambitious that it spends a lot of time outside of sentimentally thinking about what your partner means to you. And Venus in Libra is kind of idealistic about how badly it wants a partner that it can vibe with. And so there's a possibility for you to be somebody who gets partners who are not, they might functionally at the surface appear to be a good partner for you, but for any Sagittarius Moon, it's important to meditate, especially for Sagittarius Moon. Meditate and try to see how your compulsions of your mind from childhood have caused you, instead of sharing your listening for soul meaning and purpose with anyone around you, The moon in Sagittarius from childhood is geared towards like, how can I have fun for myself? And how can I attract people who support me on my path and my journey and my bliss and my joy, but without necessarily seeing the full picture of thinking about what the other person's going to be like, what the other person wants, how the person is that I want is going to be enjoying me in the future, and whether our lives are on the same sort of path. Venus in Libra is definitely somebody who just snaps to it and then just takes kind of the first pie that they try without giving it space to really contemplate what you want in a life partner. So if you meditate, as a Sag moon, I recommend you go beside a river, listen to the sound of the river, and try to do this for 10-15 minutes every other day. Ideally, more than that, once a day, by yourself, not necessarily with the river, but this river thing. Go towards the river once in a while, sit down, try to find a babbling brook or something similar, the sound of the birds, the sound of the air. Listen, only listen. And as you'll notice that your ambitious Jupiter, the Svadhisthana chakra of the moon comes through the Manipura and it gets exaggerated and it wants to come out even stronger. And you're like, oh my God, I've got so many ideas now that I've finally quieted my mind. Put the book down and meditate. See how long you can listen without starting to run on your own internal attached neural program of deafening inner compulsion. If you can practice listening outside, eventually you'll be able to listen inside as well. You'll be able to calm your mind and think about what your partner actually means to you, think about how you can best live with them, and think about what is ultimately most fulfilling for your life path. Thankfully, again, this is a Venus that allows you to have the experiences, to open your heart enough to live and find and discover what merging with other souls means, even though the Sag moon might feel awkward about it. It's probably the best way I can put this combination. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was kind of me giving my own little spiel on this combination. Ultimately, it is a good combination. Especially, it's one of the best for Sagittarius moon. Now, this is Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. This is me kind of giving a little spiel on, a Western author's sort of lighter-hearted perspective on what can be expected romantically and erotically from the lovemaking nature of Moon in Sagittarius, Venus in Libra. What are you like when you finally snag it with someone and make it happen with someone? Moon in Sag, Venus in Libra. Fun-loving and sociable. You aren't overly inclined to stay at home and snuggle up in front of the TV with your lover. It's the 11th house, Venus being in the 11th house from the moon. You kind of want to be out on the town with the lover on your arm, where you can do exciting things and meet interesting new people. Nevertheless, when you do stay at home, you are a skilled and considerate lover, eager to make your bed partner happy. So the Venus in Libra wants to give the partner, wants to be appreciated for giving the other partner what the other partner enjoys and wants. And really, the Venus in Libra, the desire that you have to meet the partner at their needs, at what actually makes them the best person they could be, this is what helps to reduce the Svadhisthana chakra lack that comes from the moon in Sagittarius, where you actually are emblissened by something outside of yourself, which means you'll listen and you'll actually be in conversation and you'll hear what the person is saying and then respond in a way that makes sense to you, which means that you're cracking through the shell that so many Sagittarius moons can be guilty of by being in their own sphere of sound, so to say. Jupiter rules sound, and Moon in Sagittarius can be kind of like socially deaf unless Venus can have a reason to joyously bring him out of it. So when you are at home with somebody, you are still a considerate lover, eager to make your bed partner happy. The romantic Libra in you yearns for a committed union, but your independent Sagittarian moon detests being tied down at some level. For the best of both worlds, you need a mate who not only loves you, but also shares your easygoing wanderlust and your desire to just sort of let things go, let things be easy, not too nitpicky, and ultimately rock and roll. There is a capacity in you to ignore the need to tell your partner difficult things in a nice way, because the Sagittarius moon in you can be rather blunt, but the Libra again is in a position here, Venus in Libra, deafens the overtaking soundscape of your own gear work, so that you can ultimately listen to your partner. And when they, you don't want to be a doormat. People with too much strong Venus, too much Libra placements can be a bit of a doormat. And sometimes you'll find the Sagittarius moon in you will be independent and almost aggressive. Your partner's like, wow, you've been so nice. This Libra Venus has been so nice. But you want to meet your partner in the middle, especially if your Venus isn't as strong as it could be, even though it's in Libra. If your Venus isn't that strong, you'll probably be a doormat for whatever your partner wants. And you'll assume that they'll reciprocate and do the same for you. But if they don't, you'll just keep being a doormat until the Sagittarius moon comes out and says, hey, you're being you'll just come right out and be direct in an aggressive way. And the partner will be like, where the heck did this come from? And ultimately, that's not a good thing. What you should be doing is channeling your Venus in Libra from the beginning, being reciprocative, but reminding them, just letting you know, by the way, I've done a few things for you, and I'm just letting you know that I feel like it would be nice if we mutually reciprocated each other. Do it right from the beginning so that Sagittarius moon doesn't have to come out blunt and aggressive, because the Venus here is in the better position than the moon by sign. Hope that's a useful little utilitarian piece of advice and consciousness. Ultimately, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it was a nice little easy breakdown of this consciousness. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Feel free to let me know in the comments if I did this justice. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the other side in the next video I do.